Hey guys, this is John with CheatSheetPros.com. It is Friday, August 7th, and I want to go ahead and take a look at today's MLB slate. I took the day off work, so I wanted to go ahead and do a video because I'm honestly tired of typing, so let's go ahead and get started. So this is the 2020 MLB sheet. Now when you come in here, you click in the visitor, it gives you the drop down of all the games you can pick from. The top two games are afternoon and showdown, so Detroit starts the main slate. On this one, I roughly looked at it. Nothing I really like here. You can see Pittsburgh has been ice cold. Last 7, everything's in the blue. They are dirt cheap. The 5 highest price hitters is $3,860 per person on average, which is super cheap. But on the season as a team, they're batting 191 and scoring about 3.5 runs a game. So not real excited. So let's just go ahead and look at something else. Say go down to the next game, we got Atlanta and Philadelphia. So I'm looking through here. So the first thing I look at is, okay, so Atlanta's been good, Philly's been good. They're each scoring a decent amount of fantasy points per game. And we have a little indicator here for monster BVP numbers. So that's Atlanta against VV. And let's look at how he did last year. In 79 innings, he had an ERA over 5, xFIP of 4.5, decent K9, a little high whip, and gave up almost a 270 average. And doesn't really have enough stats yet for 2020. And a somewhat weak bullpen to start the year behind him. So Atlanta wouldn't be a bad stack. So if you're going to go through here, you're going to look for some players. Right here is our BVP. So you can look down here and see, okay, Acuna is 4 for 11. Dansby 6 for 16, but has 6 Ks. Freddie Freeman 9 for 27. Ozuna 3 for 20. Maybe you stay away from him. He's only batting 150 against him. And then you've got d'Arnaud 1 for 10. And then a few at-bats at the bottom. The one that jumps out at me down here is Ender. Now, he's been cold the last week, but he's only 3,600. He's batting 400 off of him. He's 10 for 25. So that's decent. So if I'm going to stack this game, the pitchers I like tonight are expensive, so I've got to find some cheap guys. So if I'm stacking Atlanta, he's going to be in it. So I'm probably going to grab 1, maybe 2 of these other 6 to 9 guys and then wrap it around the top and see if I can either get one of these top 3. And then I'm probably just going to pass on Ozuna, who's 3 for 20, and d'Arnaud that's 1 for 10, just because they're almost $5,000. That's pretty expensive. Dansby and Freeman don't look too bad. They've got monster ceilings in the last 14 games that are GPP winning upside, so that's a decent play. Over here on the other side, only 7 at-bats on the BVP, so not really worried about it. They're facing Kyle Wright or righty. So since there's not a lot of BVP, I just want to look and see how the team's doing as a whole. And then the last 7, last 14. Price-wise, you're going to pay a premium for Harper at 56. Other than that, if you don't want Harper in your lineup, you could stack this up. You could go 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 4, 5, 7, 1, 2, 4, 6, 7. You could mix this up. Everybody else is fairly cheap. And even if you wanted to go Harper, you could take one of these bottom 3 or 4 guys and average out the price. Didi, this jumps out at me. So he's been doing really well lately, averaging 13.3 over the last week, almost 9 points per game over the last 2 weeks, and he's only 3,700. So that's not a terrible play. I wish there was some data there on Kyle Wright and how he did versus lefties. That'd help me out, but decent bullpen behind him. So I don't mind the stack, not my favorite. Well, let's go down. Miami and the Mets. I probably don't even want to touch this game. What do we got? Last 10 power ranks, 8 versus 10. All right, so this team jumps out as hot. So Miami, okay. So the reason they're jumping out as hot is because this number here, this total for the last 7 is triggering a number. But if you look at it, it's Rojas and Aguilar. So those 2 are making up over half, so that's why it's triggering it. So I'm going to just take this with a grain of salt, look elsewhere. Waka, let's see, this year, he's only thrown 9 innings, had an xFIP of almost 5, whip of 1.7, and given up a 3.16 average. so struggled a little bit. What jumps out at me is he switched team and went over to the Mets, so I want to look at the total stats last year. And one of the things that comes out is if you look at these two averages, so at home he allowed a 242 and then on the road a 326. Well, technically this is considered a road game because he switched teams. So you could look at these numbers, ERA of almost 5, whip of 166, an average of 326 allowed. So I don't mind if you want to do a little cheap stack here. It shouldn't be too expensive. So the 2 to 6 highest price guys are around 4,100. So not my favorite, but don't mind the stack. Definitely see if you are going to move that direction. They just don't score enough runs and they're not exciting to watch. As far as Miami, fantasy point production is good. What I like to see here is this last 7 is all yellow and orange, so it's good. There's not a lot of blue in there. A lot of good grades versus pitcher hand in this column. So you could do 2, 3, 4, 5, and then even throw 7 in there. And how much is that? Okay, so that's the optimal stack. So this shows your best 5-man optimal stack based off grade, and it's the 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, which are these hitters right here. And the average of those is only 4160, so that's pretty cheap. I'm going to make a note here on my little sheet of paper of that's a stack that I like and want to come back and look at because it will allow me to get 2 expensive pitchers. As far as BVP versus Alcantara, you have McNeil, who's 6 for 17. That's pretty good. Alonso hasn't done well, but he's got a bomb. Conforto's 6 for 20. JD Davis is 4 for 10. So pretty good. What jumps out at me over here on the BVP is on the team through 109 at-bats that they faced him, they're only striking out 16% of the time. That's really low. Typically you see 23 to 25. So anything in that 16 to 18 range, when you get over 15 at-bats, it kind of just sets something off in my head. And if you look at it, Nemo's got 5 of those strikeouts. If you take those 5 out, then it's really low. And especially Conforto, he's got 20 at-bats and only 2 Ks, so that's pretty good. So I like the Mets for a stack there. And let's go look at this next one. I'm going to try to keep this video as short as possible, although it is going to take some time to flip through these games, so just bear with me. Toronto-Boston, 18-25. Both teams have losing records. Don't have a lot of interest here. Boston's semi-expensive. You have Devers and Martinez that are both over 5K. So if you're going to stack Boston, likely you can only get one of them and then 4 of the other guys, and you could probably make that work. It's going to be hard to get both of those in a stack that I like. Over here, Weber, what did he do last year? Well, I'm not going to stack Toronto, so I don't have to worry about this. The best 5-man stack for them is almost as much as Boston, so I'm not interested in that. I mean, they're batting .214 as a team on the season and scoring 3.1 runs per game. Let's save the time and skip past them. So Minnesota, KC. For those of you that have followed me for a while, you know I'm from KC. I'm a big Chiefs fan, and I do like the Royals. Minnesota's been red hot. 4 in the last 10 power rankings. Kansas City's up and down, but do keep in mind they do crush lefties. So that is one thing that does jump out. And let's see here. So let's take a look. So Minnesota's one that'll probably be pretty popular. This is the Vegas projected number. So Minnesota's projected at 5.2 runs. So that's a one that I think will be a popular stack. A lot of people's going to look at that. And then I look up here. So Minnesota on the road, they're only striking out 17.4% of the time. Now, it's only 5 games. Take it with a grain of salt, but that's drastically different than the 8 games they have at home where they're striking out 26% of the time. And I think the weather's supposed to be pretty decent tonight. And the stat cost is inexpensive. I couldn't believe how cheap this one was. So the best 5 stack is an average of $3,920 per player. These are DK prices. The 5 highest price guys are $4,480. And now they are facing Junis, and I believe this is his first start of the year. He's just coming back, and he's got a pretty decent BVP number against him, but he is not unhittable by any means, especially in his first start of the year and a rough bullpen behind him. I definitely don't mind a Minnesota stack, so I'm going to make a note here on my piece of paper, come back, take a look at that one. And you can see Junis has a really high K rate. So if you want to be contrarian and you're not stacking Minnesota, you could play Junis, and if you're going up against someone, if you get to the end of a GPP where they are stacking Minnesota and you've got Junis, and let's say Junis shuts them down and has a 3-hitter and gives up 1 run, then that's going to be contrarian and put you ahead of the field. 41% strikeout rate is pretty ridiculous, and 78 at-bats, that's a decent sample size. So Kepler, 6 for 18 with the home run. He's done well. Donaldson looks like he's the one that's really struggled against Junis, 0 for 8 with 3 Ks. Polanco, 4 for 14 with 6 Ks. Cruz, 0 for 6 with 3 Ks. And again, the BVP, a lot of different things could be going on, so I don't put a ton of stock in it, but it is something I want to take note of. Now Rosario, he's done decent, 6 for 17, so he's batting 353 off of him, but he does have 6 Ks. And all of these guys are running red hot, the 1 through 5. So up here it says the best stack's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 7. So that's going to be Kepler, Donaldson, Polanco, Cruz, and then we're going to drop down here to Jake Cave, who's averaging 12 points per game over the last 7 and 7.5 over the last, and he's only $2,800, so that's a cheap stack there. That gets you down to the 39.20. So I definitely like that one. Let me put a little check mark by that so I can come back to it. As far as Kansas City, I don't mind stacking them. They've got some guys with high WRC pluses versus left-handed hitter. I don't know who this Smeltzer guy is. It looks like he did throw 36 innings last year. He had an ERA sub-4, xFIP almost 5, and gave up a 288 average. And then on the road, now given it's only 12 innings because he only threw 36 on the year, but he gave up a 167 whip and a 353 average and a decent bullpen. So I don't mind the price here for Minnesota if you want to put him in a parlay if you're sports betting. And as far as a stack for Kansas City, Witt is just ridiculously expensive at $5,700. If you don't want to stack Witt, you could go anywhere else and get him cheap. I won't have any Royals. I just enjoy watching them because I'm a hometown. And then here, they're low mid on the fantasy point production grade, so they're not real hot. They're hitting 251, scoring 4 runs a game. Nothing exciting. So if I stack anything here, I'm going Minnesota. And let's jump down here to Cincinnati and Milwaukee. So we have Cincinnati, who's lost 3 straight. Milwaukee's won 2. And we're going to take a quick look at the Vegas board right here. And so 93% of the run line money is on Milwaukee. So that would be Milwaukee plus 1.5, but 83% is on Cincinnati to win. So a little bit kind of right in the middle. Okay, so the first thing I see here is Bauer. Now, he's my favorite pitcher on the slate. One of the reasons is the fantasy point production for Milwaukee is low mid. You see there's about half of them are blue in here. They've struggled. They have a decent BVP against him, but he still has a 25% strikeout rate. And Bauer's starting off the year pretty solid, so I like him at 10.6. He's probably one of the most expensive pitchers on the slate, I can imagine. But the team's cold. They're batting 220 as a team, scoring 3.9 runs per game. And then if you want to look at the breakdown versus right-handed pitchers, they're 2-3. They have a WRC plus that's 80 points lower than facing lefties, and they're batting only 214 versus right-handed pitching. And this is what I really like. They have a 29% strikeout rate versus the righties. Now, again, they've got 5 games versus righties and 5 games versus lefties. 29% strikeout rate versus 23.6. That's a pretty big jump versus right-handed pitching. And then you can look at the home-away splits here. So at home, they've even got a big strikeout rate of 32.4%. So they suck versus righties, and they've been sucking at home. So I think Bauer is the safest play on the slate today. That's the one pitcher that I'm probably going to lock in and run maybe about 10 lines, do 5 stacks, 2 variations each. Last year, his stats were decent. He was kind of mid-range. This year, he's got 13 innings under his belt with an ERA of .68. xFIP says it should be closer to 2.33. And then he's allowing a 144 WOBA, a 13.5 K9, a .5 WHIP, and a batting average of .091. So Bauer is the pitcher that I'm going with today. Over here on the other side, so we're not even going to talk about stacking against him. If you want to be contrarian, you can. I'm not going to do that. Over here on Cincinnati, I don't mind a stack here. Their fantasy point production. So if you haven't seen the tutorial video, the fantasy point production, there's ice cold, low, mid, good, and hot. So there's 4 tiers. You want to stay away from the 2 in blue, the ice cold and the low mid. If you're going to stack, I would stay in the good or hot range. And so you're looking here, you got a couple guys hot, couple guys cold. They've done well. BVP only 15 at bats, so just cross this off. Don't even worry about that. That's not enough at bats. So Eric is a lefty, so I want to see. Okay, so they're 2-1 versus lefties. Only 3 games though, so not a lot of stats. I'm gonna flip through here. I'm just looking at some prices, so you can see these guys here are the highest priced. And Votto has been on fire. 12.2 per game over the last week, 8.1, ceiling of about 20. Eugenio, he always starts off cold, and then he gets hot, so I don't mind plugging him in there. He's got a monster WRC plus versus lefties, and then Castellanos, WRC plus of 190 versus lefties and a 460 WOBA. That is just massive, so he's someone that I really like if you're building around. He's been decent. And Moose, our ex-Kansas City Royal, nothing that blows me away there, but he's 14.5 points per game over the last 7 and about 10 over the last 2 weeks with the highest ceiling on the team. That's pretty solid. And they're not bad. They're mid-4s if you mix in 1 or 2 of these other guys. Oh my gosh, these guys are dirt cheap. 24, 27, 33, 32. Yeah, so you could do all 4 of these guys and mix any one of these or even the leadoff guy and get a 5-man stack and get it down around 4K, maybe a little less. And then so let's look at the pitcher. So he's got a huge swinging strike rate so far this year. But again, he doesn't have enough minimum innings. I think the minimum is 6 or 7 before they start scraping on the sheet. Last year in 78 innings, xFIP of 4.7, decent K9, a really high whip, and a pretty high average. And these are his home-away splits, and these are lefty-righty splits. Now, the one thing that jumps out at me is this top one. So he's a left-handed pitcher versus left-handed hitters. He amassed 17 innings, and he had an ERA of 9.5, xFIP of 5.5, gave up a 483 WOBA versus only 290 to righties. K9 rate dropped. His whip skyrocketed from 128, which is decent, to 2.47. And then the average allowed versus righties is 238, but versus lefties it's 410. So if we're going to stack this game, we want to look at lefties. So we looked at Votto up here. He's been doing good, so we definitely want him in the stack. And then we've got Moose. We're going to put him in there. He's been red hot. We're going to put him in there. And then you definitely want Castellanos because he's been doing really well. So you definitely want the 2, the 4, the 5. And then you could even use this as a 3-man stack and stack another 5 from another team because the price really isn't that bad. You're looking at 45 for 3 solid guys. And then you could mix in any of these other guys in here to get the 5. So I do like Cincy. Let me make a note of that one. I'm trying to record this while I go through and take another quick glimpse at the sheet and then come back to it and do my stacks when I get done with the video while it's uploading. So we got the Indians and the White Sox. So both of these teams are interesting. We got number 6, number 7, last 10 power ranks. Cleveland really hasn't been doing that well this year. They're hitting 192 as a team. You can see they are low mid. They're pretty much ice cold outside of Jose Ramirez, who's been scorching hot. So if you do want one person from this game and you've got some money left over, I love Jose Ramirez here. Cesar Hernandez is cheap. He's 2 for 2 versus Cease. And only 17 at-bats, but you can see they're hitting 471. You got 2 for 5, 2 for 5, 1 for 2, 1 for 1. So this could be a game where Cleveland blows up. And you can get a 5-man stack here for about $4,500. So that's not too bad. It's a little more expensive than what I would want to pay for him, but I don't mind it. Cease down here. Let me see. He is at home. So last year he gave up a 181 whip and 299 average at home. So yeah, I don't mind Cincinnati getting hot here if they can freaking hit the ball. They have won 3 straight, so don't mind that. And then over here on the White Sox, I don't even know how this is pronounced, Savali. But I really like him. I had him drafted in 10 Yahoo Pro leagues before the early drafts all got canceled, and then I was just too lazy to go back and draft another 10 or 15 leagues. I like him as a pitcher. He's kind of high at 9,300, but so far this year he's got a swinging strike rate of 14.1%, so that's putting him up in the almost elite category. And last year he did get 57 innings in, and he had a 2.34 ERA, but his xFIP says, hey, it should have been closer to 4.6, but everybody says it should have been higher. And then we've got the two little indicators here. He had a micro whip of 104 and allowed an average of 216. So that's really good. And then even on the road last year, he had 33 innings and allowed a 230 average. So I like him. Savali, that's what we're going to call him. I don't know what his name is. And he's got a good bullpen behind him. Come down here, 2020 stats, 12 innings, 3.75 ERA, decent whip. I mean, he's kind of decent across the board. xFIP says it should be closer to 1.63, so he's having a good year. So I like him as a second pitcher to rotate in with Bauer. And what am I at? 21 minutes? Okay, so let's go ahead and see if we can speed this up a little. All right, so Angels, Texas, probably not going to touch anything in this game. The one thing that I do like, so we got 16 and 30. That's why I really don't want to get involved in it. I don't mind a stack of the Angels. Trout, it doesn't look like he's projected to be in the lineup, so if he's not in there, I probably don't want to touch it. And then Griffin Canning, he's one of the pitchers I'm going to use for GPP at 8,200. I don't mind him. Solid swinging strike rate this year of 13.1%, and he's got 10 innings under his belt, ERA of 3.38, K9 10.1, and allowing a 250 average, so he's decent. The reason I like him is he's going up against Texas, who's ice cold. They've lost 3 straight. They're 2-8 in their last 10. You look at the last 7, like there's no production here. And even though it's only 18 at-bats, they have a 28% strikeout rate against him. So I'm not really worried about them blowing up. I mean, they're scoring 3.3 runs per game and hitting 208 as a team on the year. And they're pretty much, well, they are dead last in the power ranks. So I don't mind Canning plugging in there for GPP. And then let's see, Diamondbacks, Padres. I like Luke Weaver. He's the other GPP guy I'm going to plug in and plug out. Looks like he had a struggle his first time out. Davies, he's kind of a soft contact pitcher. Looking through his stats, he's got 10 innings this year, whip a 1, allowing a 237 average. So nothing fantastic. If you want to stack up the Cardinals, or not the Cardinals, the Diamondbacks, I don't mind it. They're projected at 3.8 runs, and you can see they're really not doing much this year. But they're cheap. If you want something contrarian, put it in there. If you want to stack against Weaver, I do like the Padres. I mean, they're scoring 5.5 runs a game. Tatis is 5,400. He is just massive. So if you are going to stack, then you got to kind of get down in this range and save some money. My favorite guy on the team, though, to play is Machado. He's doing really well. Doesn't have a massive ceiling yet, but he's only 4,400, and through 12 at-bats, he's batting .417 off Weaver, so that's pretty decent. But I could go either way with this. If you wanted to stack the Padres or if you wanted to play Weaver, I'll probably have both sides of it just to kind of see what happens. Houston, Oakland. So we got Greinke, Bassett. Again, I mean, you can sit here and look at the sheet and go either way on this. I don't mind it. Bassett's got decent numbers if you want to sit here and look at it. I mean, 9 innings this year. He's got a .93 ERA, .93 whip, 222 average, and he's $8,300. I don't mind using him as a rotate in and out GPP pitcher. Decent bullpen behind him. I mean, Oakland's won 6 straight. So, you know, the good chance here he probably gets the win. At least that's where the money in Vegas is at. Everybody's got the 93% of the money on the Oakland run line. And then over here at Houston, you know, Houston can pretty much blow up anytime they want. What I like about them for a bet is they are a dog, so you're getting plus money. And then they're rolling out Greinke. I don't like Greinke as a pitcher because Oakland's been red hot. But Greinke was solid last year, 2.98 ERA, allowed a 2.38 average. And then in 9 innings this year, he's allowed a 2.12 average. So he's doing decent. Bullpen here, ranked 30th. They've been struggling. I don't know how in the world Oakland's scoring this many runs and winning this many games. They're really not getting a lot of fantasy production, and their batting average as a team is really low, but somehow they're getting it done. So, hey, now over here you come here. Now runs per game, 5.92, and they're 4-6 in their last 10. That's interesting. But Houston, big-time name, big-time team. You're going to pay a premium. Springer's 53, Altuve 58, Bregman 55. That stack's not going to fit in any of the pitching combinations that I like or that I'm going to use. So if you are going to stack this game and you want to go with pitching, you're going to have to sit down in this range. And I don't mind doing a middle-low stack, because usually if these guys get on, it's these guys down here that are driving them in. I mean, Tucker here, he's got a ceiling of 28, and this ceiling is in the last 2 weeks, and he's only 3,300. That's not bad. Reddick, I don't mind, but he's 0 for 10 against Bassett. That kind of worries me a little bit. But the positive is he has no strikeouts, so he's at least hitting the ball. Correa, what's he, 37? I don't mind that. He's 1 for 4. He's doing decent. Gurriel, he's doing decent. He's only 43. Brantley, he's been red hot, it looks like, and he's 4 for 15. So if I stack this Houston game, I'm probably going right here. I'm going to go 4, 5, 6. I'll probably skip Reddick and go down and grab Tucker. And then if I've got enough money, put in one of these guys. But definitely the 4, 5, 6 hitters are where I'm wanting to go. Let me make a note on that. Houston, 4, 5, 6. Okay. Over here on Oakland, I don't really want to stack against Greinke, so I'm not going to waste any time talking about it. So bear with me, guys. We got 2 more games. I'm going to try to get this done under 30 minutes. So holy moly. Dodgers are minus 260, projected at 5.5 run against old Jeffy. I hate this freaking guy. He's not a bad play. I mean, he's only 6,400, but you've got a team that's doing decent. Look at the strikeout rate. 105 at-bats against him and only a 13% strikeout rate. So that's a little rough. Last year he did decent. He allowed a 219 average across 100 innings. And this year, he's only got 9 innings, but he's done absolutely horrible. xFIP over 7, allowing a 275 average. So, yeah, if you want to stack up Dodgers, you can. But you got Mookie at 6,000, Muncy at 53, Bellinger at 48. So your best 5-man stack is going to cost you almost 5,000 per player at 49.40. So that's a little rough. So if you're doing a 5 and a 3 stack, you might use your 3 from here and try to get some of the people in the middle that are going to score the runs. The bottom half of the lineup, though, is dirt cheap. 32, 41, 31, 24. And again, right here on this confirmed lineup, pending, once you open the sheet, it auto-updates and it'll say confirmed and the lineup will change. So make sure they're in there. San Francisco, I'm not playing anyone. Urias is one of the other pitchers I like. So the 3 I have today are Bauer, Savali, and Urias. And again, he's expensive, but last year through 42 innings, 109 whip, 199 average. And then this year, he's allowing a 244 average. And he's playing a team that's pretty much ice cold, hitting 250-ish on the year. So I don't mind that. I think we've got one more game. So Colorado left Colorado, and apparently they're playing in Seattle now. The grade is pretty good. The fantasy point production's pretty good. But again, you're going to pay a premium, almost $5,000 for the best 5-man stack up here. I mean, Nolan Arenado is 5,600, Story 5,300, Blackman 5,000. I mean, those are Coors prices. And from the other guys, you're really not getting a lot of production. So that does worry me a little bit. I probably won't have any of them. And then Kikuchi last year, he got lit up. And this year he's been a little decent, but only 9 innings. And I'm going to try to pronounce this one. Senzatella. Decent swinging strike rate. Now everybody's going to say, okay, well, yeah, of course his numbers here. He gave up a 3.36 average and had an ERA of 8. But yeah, he threw at Coors. Well, look at his road numbers. On the road, he still had an xFIP over 5. Gave up a 405 WOBA, a whip over 2, and this is through 27 innings, and a 358 average. So the batting average he gave up was higher on the road than it was at home. So if you want to come over here and stack Seattle, it's a weak team. It's like stacking pillows, but I could see it. I stay away from the teams that have the low, mid, or ice cold fantasy point production. But again, the best 5-man stack here is an average of 36.60 per player, and you can get a solid 3-man stack, the 1, 3, and 4 hitters for 39 per person. So if you want to do it, it would be contrarian for sure. Crawford, Lewis, and Seager would probably be the way I would go. Seager's the favorite one in the bunch here. So let's see, Senzatella, he sucks versus righties and lefties. So he's doing decent production. He's got the biggest ceiling. He's only 4,100, and he's 2 for 4 with no Ks. So that's not bad if you want to go that route. But anyways, just to recap the plays that I like a stack on Cincinnati, Minnesota, Arizona, Houston's 4, 5, 6, and I can't tell if I circled that or not. The Mets we might have hit on. The pitchers I'm spinning up today. I like Trevor Bauer, Savali, and Urias as the core plays, and then the rotate in and out for GPPs. I like Griffin, Canning, Weaver, and there was one other guy I talked about, and I don't think I wrote him down. So anyways, if you're looking at some other one-off plays, I like Xander Bogaerts and Mitch Moreland. I like Moustakas, Votto. I like Machado and Castellanos. And then for the Mets, I like McNeil, Conforto, and J.D. Davis. So anyways, good luck, guys.